Welcome to Girlfriend's Bible Study, a live Bible study with Connie and friends. Each week, Connie and her girlfriends engage in a lively conversation as they read and study scripture. So grab a pen, your journal, and your best friend and enjoy this enlightening Bible study.
Hello. Welcome to Bible Study Live with Connie. And I'm remembering to record today. Sometimes I forget to record. So, hello everyone. Good to see you. I am sharing with you a message called Don't Look Down. Don't look down. So many of you who know me, especially if you know me personally, like my sister there who just joined us. Hi, sister. So many of you who know me personally know that I am a risk taker. I am someone who will have a dream, declare it, start planning for it, and just start walking toward it. My brother teases me and says, you jump off the cliff and build the airplane on the way down. That's not intentional. It's really not in the way it sounds. I mean, I'm not trying to, jump without a net. That is really not what I'm trying to do. But I think I have a unique perspective probably than most people in terms of believing that you can do something and then doing it. Some of you know my story and I've blogged about it and spoken about it in the past, but I'll share briefly that I was born with some spinal deformities. I have limited movement and there's a whole situation, with my neck, and it starts cervical and goes all the way down to lumbar and down to the tailbone actually. And so when I was about 10 and they discovered it, based on pain and stiff neck and all of those things, they did the tests, they did the x-rays and all of that. And they said I had fusion, cervical fusion, I had severe scoliosis, I had spina bifida occulta, which means that a portion of your spine is not fully formed in the middle. So the cervical portion was fused and then heavily curved. The thoracic in the middle portion was also curved, and then parts of it weren't formed. And then lumbar had a little curvature, and then the tailbone, which is supposed to look like an upside down triangle, mine is jagged at the end. People always ask me why I sit on a pillow. I have one of those little donut pillows I sit on because it hurts to sit on my tailbone, honestly. And the skinnier I get, which I'm declaring, another one of those things I'm declaring. So the skinnier I get, the harder that bone gets, to be honest with you. I don't have that butt padding. Like when I'm at my skinniest, I'm really missing the bottom stuff. So I sit on my little donut pillow so that I don't hurt my tailbone. So it's probably more information than you needed to know. But my point with that whole story is that they told me, based on how severe my spinal deformities were, that I would never be able to play sports, that I would never be able to work. When I turned 18, I just needed to go on disability, that I'd never be able to have children, and that probably around the time I turned 21, I would be paralyzed from the neck down, that it would be degenerative. And by the time I became an adult, it would be paralyzing. And they told me to start taking muscle relaxers. And I said, for how long? And they said, just period. And I said, well, wouldn't that make me a drug addict? Like if I just started taking, and I was young, but I could figure that out. So I chose not to do that. I heard what they said. I got it. I understood what they were saying, but I chose not to accept it. I decided I don't really want to play sports all that much, not because I don't like sports, but I don't want to break a nail. I mean, there's nail issues, but also I don't sweat very much. I know my sister's laughing at me, but I'm being real. Volleyball, which is my most fun, volleyball is murder on some nails. Y'all who play volleyball, So I wasn't really coordinated well enough for, basketball. And, I couldn't do the running thing because I don't perspire very much. So when I would get overheated, I'd pass out. So there were some things I couldn't do, and that was fine, but I still wanted to do some things. So I decided I wasn't gonna accept that, diagnosis, that prognosis. And I also thought, since that is what they've said, since they put that out there, like I shouldn't be able to do anything, then I may as well try everything that I've ever wanted to try, because I have literally nothing to lose. According to them, I should be in a wheelchair. So if I decide, I think I want to try to be an astronaut, like I really, why not? So after going to college, I left college and went and became a flight attendant because I'd always wanted to live in New York. I didn't really want to be a flight attendant, but I did want to live in New York City. And there was a great big 2-page spread in the newspaper. Are you willing to relocate to New York City? And I was like, it's my job, woohoo! And I flew. Now, to be a flight attendant, for those of you who don't know, yes, people think, oh, waitress in the sky, and that's part of it. You serve drinks and peanuts and whatnot. But the biggest thing is you're there for safety reasons. You do the courteous stuff, but really you're there in case of an emergency. And part of that means you need to be able to grab the overwing exit, which you've seen in movies. You need to be able to take it and throw it out of the airplane and then shovel people off and get them off the airplane. You have to be strong enough. My back had to be strong enough. My arms had to be strong enough. You have to be a certain weight. I mean, height, all of that. They've changed some of the rules in terms of height and weight, but in terms of strength and being able to get people off the airplane, they're not playing about that. That's a safety measure. So, I could have said, well, I'm disabled. Do you hire disabled people? But I wasn't putting that label on me. So all of my amazing jobs, the places I've lived, the places I've gone, I went skiing one time. I told the family afterwards because I knew that would have stressed them, but I called them. I was like, guess what? I went skiing. And I knew that most people get hurt when they're skiing, when they fall, because you're afraid to fall. So you fall and you're trying to stop yourself from falling, and there's fear falling, and fear falling is how you mostly damage yourself. So the first thing I did as soon as I put these skis on was I threw myself on the ground, and the instructor was like, what is happening right now? I was like, wait, boom. And he was like, I look like those cows, like cow tipping. I probably look just like that. I wasn't as big as a cow though. I don't think I was. I was skinnier than a cow. So anyway, but my point is I'd always wanted to go skiing because I knew, since I didn't perspire, a cold weather sport like skiing would be good for me. And it was. I didn't go far. I didn't do a lot, but I did some skiing. I did some skiing and it was really, really fun. One of my most fun times. It was in Wisconsin of all places, where my wonderful nephew now lives. So that was my skiing experience. Now, so I say that to say, when there's something that I'm interested in doing, going after, a place I want to live, a job I want to have, a thing I want to do, a business I want to start, I'm not so inclined to listen to the naysayers of, well, because there's always that person. Well, the only way you can do that is, well, yeah, I know what the rules say, but I don't actually believe that. So it's not really my goal to build the airplane on the way down. That's not my goal. But if that's what I have to do, then I will do it. If I've decided that is my goal, it's being real. It doesn't mean it's not scary. My sister and I, and we'll talk about this in a moment, we've talked about the fact you start a business, you do this thing, people assume it's easy for me. Like there's no fear. I never get nervous. Yeah, it's not true. Yeah, it's just as scary the 700th time as it is the first or third time. It really is, because everything is another growth step. It's another risk. But what I've learned is not to look down, not to look down. Now, I want to talk about optimism a little bit and pessimism, which I equate with realism. So here's the thing. I am an eternal optimist. My sister will attest to this. I believe it. I believe if we do it, we're going to do it. People who call themselves realists, I consider actually pessimists, because they base what they're believing on what they can see only, and they think that's realism. But if you know that ultimately you want a degree in whatever, and you don't have it yet, but you believe you're going to get it, and you apply to the school and you believe you're going to get in, that doesn't make you a realist. That makes you an optimist, because you're believing something that you don't yet see. A realist would say, I may or may not get in. I'm good. All I can say is from this moment, I can apply, I can send a letter, but there's no guarantee. But why even apply if you're in that mindset? Like, if you don't think, well, I think I'm going to get in, my grades say this. And so you've got some, some facts or some figures or some things that make you believe it. But if you don't believe something that you don't yet see, you really don't go toward it. Most people who don't apply for colleges that they really want to go to, it's because they don't believe they can get in. They don't apply and then get turned down. They don't even apply because they don't see it. They don't believe it. It doesn't seem like a real thing to them. And my thing is, realism is, whatever. It's kind of pessimism. You count on, your marriage staying together, for instance. You count on it. If you don't count on it, you're like, well, we're taking it one day at a time. Really? Oh my gosh, you're probably not going to make it. I can tell you that. If that's the best you can do, like, you believe in people, you believe in what they can do, you believe in what you can do. I love the Muhammad Ali story and him saying, I am the greatest. And he wasn't the greatest yet, but he said it. He said it until he believed it. He said it until everybody else believed it. And then he became the greatest. And I love that about Muhammad Ali. He said it, he declared it, and then he became it. And with anything like that, any goal, okay, this is bigger than I can imagine. So first can we get it into our heart to imagine it? Because until we can imagine it, it's not going to happen anyway. We can't even see it. We can't believe it. We don't believe it. It's not going to happen. My thing is, when you have that goal, the goal is up. Look up at the goal and don't look down. Don't look down like, that's the goal. I really want to go to Harvard, but let me look down. I don't know if I'm going to get in. I don't know if maybe a community college. I don't think I have this conversation constantly. Oh my gosh, not only with my clients, but my friends, my family members. I have people who send me all the negatives. I want to do this, but I'm sure it's not going to happen. Okay, well, then pretty much it won't. So, and there's that saying that says something like, whether you believe it will or it won't, or whether you believe you can or you can't is true. Either one, whichever one you believe is true. So I'm going to read a couple of scriptures. I'm going to tell a couple more stories, and then I'm going to bring my sister on. And so the first story I want to read is from Matthew 14. And it's about Peter, my friend Peter, walking on the water. And look, I got all my, I was telling my sister recently, and see, I declared it. I didn't have them. I declared it. I said, I need more bookmarks. So I found a packet of 50 bookmarks, and I have them. This one says on one side, try a little harder to be a little better. And then on the other side, it says, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. Well, yeah, I got scary dreams. Y'all know. All right. So Matthew 14, here's what it says. It says, immediately, this is 14, verse 22. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. After he dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. During the fourth watch of the night, and I don't know what time that is. Somebody probably knows. I don't know. One of my people, what's the fourth watch? Anyway, fourth watch of the night, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said, and cried out in fear. Woo! But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Yep. Come, he said. Jesus like, that's easy. Come. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. He was looking up. He's looking at Jesus. He's thinking, I can do it. Jesus said, I asked if it's him, because I've seen him do miracles. If it's him, tell me to come to you and I'll come. He said, come. So he started walking. But then, right, when he saw the wind, he took his eyes off of Jesus. He stopped looking up, started looking around, seeing things blowing, looking at the water whipping. He looked down. And what happened? He was afraid. That's what happens when you look down. When you take your eye off the goal and you look around or you look down, he was afraid. That is what invites the fear in, the what ifs. No, look at this. This is hard. What am I doing? I can't walk on water. What was I thinking? You know that's what he was thinking. I can't walk on water. What am I thinking? Here he is walking on water, but he's thinking, what am I doing? I can't walk on water. He began to sink. Once he took his eyes off of Jesus, got afraid, he started to sink and he cried out, Lord, save me. Immediately, Jesus, he was that close. Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. He was that close. Like, even if he'd gone under the water, Jesus was close enough to reach his hand out. Oh, good grief. You of little faith, he said, why did you doubt? why did you doubt? Why did you look down? Why did you stop believing? Why did you believe the doctor said you were going to be in a wheelchair and then you ended up in a wheelchair? I wasn't believing that. God knew. I was like, a wheelchair? No, we're not having that. Nope. So then it says, and when they climbed into the boat, because that means he didn't. Here's the thing. Jesus reaches out his hand, right, and catches Peter, and they still got to get back to the boat. So what does that mean? Jesus is holding his hand and they're just both walking on the water over to the boat? But he thought he couldn't do it. Anyway. So they climbed into the boat. The wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshiped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. Truly he is. Truly he is. I love it. While we are in Matthew, there's another verse in 17, and I just want to read that one. Matthew 17, verses 20 and 21. They were trying to drive out this demon, and it wasn't working. So the disciples had asked Jesus, why couldn't we drive it out? What happened? And Jesus replied, because you have so little faith. I tell you the truth. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, and it's like a little dot, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Or say, I like when they say, you can say to this mountain, throw yourself into the sea, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Nothing. You can say, I am the greatest, and you will become the greatest if you believe it. It's not just saying it, it's also believing it. So there's the power of words, there's the power of thoughts, there's writing some stuff down, there's changing your heart. There's some stuff. It's not just as simple as, I'm purple today. Yeah, it's not quite that simple, although I kind of am purple today. But in general, it's not quite that simple. You have to actually believe it. I chose not to believe what the doctor said was going to happen with me. I chose not to believe it. I chose not to. And I didn't. One of my all-time favorite scriptures is Hebrews 11:1. So I'm going to go there next. Just one little verse. Oh, wait, I was supposed to be reading this. So my bookmark, this one says, you can do anything. And the other side says, don't think outside the box. Think like there is no box. It's like there is no spoon in the Matrix. Love it. And then this one says, it takes about 20 years to make an overnight success. All right, well, I'm older than that. And then on the other side, stop waiting for things to happen. Go out and make them happen. These are good bookmarks. I'm digging the bookmarks. All right, so Hebrews 11:1, one of my favorite scriptures. I'm still going to just read it, because, now faith. And I love the words now faith. So I had a whole pastor who gave a message about now faith, that it's not like they're saying, now, let me tell you, it's like now faith, like right now faith, like active now faith. So now faith, that's how I always think of it now, is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. That is my favorite scripture. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. And that's how I always have these big dreams and goals, because I feel like it's going to happen. How can it not? It's got to happen. It has to. And so then it does. All right. I think I have one more scripture. Well, no, I have two, but the second one I'll give you in a moment. So Romans 4:17. I just love this one. Romans 4:17 says, as it is written, he was talking about Abraham. As it is written, I have made you a father of many nations. He is our father in the sight of God, in whom he believed. The God who gives life to the dead and calls things that are not as though they were. He calls things that are not as though they were. Calls those things which be not as though they were. That's that don't look down. That's the, okay, I see the vision. I'm going to get it. It's not here yet, but I'm believing for it. I believe it. And when you start believing for it, then you start walking toward it. It's like with anything. You know how you say, oh, I think I want to get a yellow car. And then all of a sudden you see all these yellow cars because now you're speaking on it. You're putting energy toward it. So then suddenly you see all these yellow cars. And then don't go out and buy a yellow car. Then every car you see is yellow. You're like, where'd all these yellow cars come from? But they were there. It's just that your focus is now there. So the last thing I just want to share with you, this one says, never give up, stop wishing, start doing. All right, I don't know if I read that one. And then there's one more, but what I'll say before I read this last one is, I always talk about the power of words. And, it's so important. What we say is so important. And when I hear people speak against themselves or declare, like I hear people say, oh man, nothing ever turns out right for me. And then you know what happens? Stuff doesn't really turn out right because they're kind of drawing in things to not work out. I don't say that. I'm really blessed and favored, and I get great opportunities, and I meet the most amazing people, and I talk about my friends. Y'all know I love my friends. I've got I've got a great tribe. Like, people meet my friends and I introduce them all to each other. So they meet each other. They're like, that's the most wonderful person I ever met. And they are. You're right. I attract wonderful people. I really do. I really do. I had a friend. Let me just share this. I'm going to go sidebar right quick. I had a friend recently say something to me and it really hurt my feelings. And I checked him on the spot. I checked him, but I just want to mention this. I was talking about an ex, and he asked me, Connie, do you have the word loser written across your forehead and you just attract losers? And I looked at him and I said, no, I attract really great people. And in fact, all of my exes have greatness in them as well. And it was the greatness in them that I was attracted to. And some walked it out and some didn't. But I don't attract losers. I'm not even interested in losers. I'm attracted to people who have greatness in them, have purpose in them. I was offended. It hurt my feelings. And I thought about it later and I thought, that was his issue. That wasn't even my issue. That's his issue. I don't have that issue. My exes are great. My exes are great. They just weren't great for me. Even those where I don't agree with their personality and they did some stuff or whatever. In general, if you met them, you'd be like, oh yeah, this person is salt to the earth. So I don't have that issue. Many of my exes are friends on Facebook. I don't have an issue with loser exes. No, I'm not doing that. So anyway, my point is I declared I was going to attract wonderful people, and I do. Gina will tell you when I bring her on in a moment about my bosses. I've had amazing bosses, really intelligent, lots of integrity, role model people that I'm still friends with. And I remember Gina at one point said, how do you keep getting these great bosses? I was like, I'm not working for anybody who's not great. Like, I'm not having it. And Gina declared right then, my next boss is going to be great. And you know what happened? Her next boss was great. Her next boss is great. So it really is funny, but the power of words, it is important to speak the right words, declare the right things over you. And if you don't believe it, then you don't have the faith. It's just words. It's like me, like I'm reading, this is April 20th. So I'm reading, it's just a word. It's just a word if I don't believe it. It doesn't mean anything if I just read it. Never give up. Oh yeah, but I always give up. So whatever. Yeah, I don't give up. Never give up. That's what this one says. Never give up. Can you see it? Never give up. So anyway, power of words, and then write the vision and make it plain. I already said the scripture, but I'm going to show you. It's Habakkuk 2:2. Habakkuk 2:2. And my bookmark says, never let the odds keep you from pursuing what you know in your heart you were meant to do. That is some truth right there. And it's about the story I'm about to share. And then on the other side, it says, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. And I've heard that one many times and I love it. So Habakkuk 2:2 says, and the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables or tablets, that he may run that readeth it. And on the other side, in NIV, it says, write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it. And I write things down that I declare over myself that are going to happen. I write it down. I put it in journals. Sometimes I put it up on signs and I put it up on my wall. And my story about this is when we went to Cannes the first time with a short film, I decided I've been to Cannes and I wanted one of my films to go to Cannes. So I put it up on my wall in front of my office where I saw it every day, that our short film was going to Cannes. And you know what happened that year? Our short film went to Cannes. And I left the sign up and I said, we're going back to Cannes next year. They invited us back the next year. And you know what happened the next year? We went back to Cannes. And then I took the sign down because I was going through some stuff and I didn't want to worry about Cannes the next year. So I took it down and you know what happened? I didn't go back to Cannes. But writing the vision, writing it down and making it plain is really important. So on that note, I'm going to gallery view it right now, bring my beautiful sister on and ask her what her thoughts are, what she's thinking about not looking down. What you thinking?
I'm really tall. It's hard for me not to look down.
A whole other thing. It's a whole other thing.
Yeah. Kind of isn't. Kind of isn't. Fear of stepping someplace I don't want to be, or will you turn it down just a little bit? Or, so that's hard for me. I'm not as good at not looking down as you are. I appreciate you're not looking down, and I appreciate remembering that if your dream isn't scary, it's not big enough. So.
Well, I'm always there in your corner. And I will say this as it relates to not looking down. And I'm not super short. I mean, I'm not as tall as you, but I'm not super short. But I will tell you what you're talking about in terms of being afraid that you might step on someone. For a long time, that was my fear. I felt like, what if I leave the people that I love? What if I invite them to go with me and I go ahead of them and then I leave them behind? Or, they're feeling abandoned, which is sort of like the stepped on feeling a little bit. It's like, what if I miss them or step over them or go around them? And here's what I learned. And it took me a long time, like only recently in the last couple of years, did I realize holding yourself back to stay where everybody else is doesn't benefit anybody. If you have the ability, like if I knew I can sprint ahead and get to the gold and nobody else can get there, but I could get there and I could get to the pot of gold that then I could turn around and bless everybody else with, and I said, but I'm not gonna, I know I could, but I'm not gonna do it because I don't want to leave them behind. Then I'm losing and so are they. And so that's what I've realized is that it's not as though, okay, well, if I stay back here with everybody else, then I'll win and so will they. It's not that simple. We all lose. So,
Yeah.
things that people can do that I can't do, if they decided I'm not gonna do those things because you can't do them, like you're a DIYer, right? I'm not. So if you decided, you know what, I'm not going to make anything anymore. I'm not going to build anything, put anything together, because Connie's not really a DIYer and I don't want her to feel left out. So I'm just not going to, I don't want to do that thing that I do so well.
And instead I've taken you with me.
That's my point.
Yeah.
You didn't step on me. You didn't trip over me. You didn't, you didn't stumble over me.
I just inspired you to do a little bit of what I do.
Yep.
As you have inspired me to do a little bit of what you do. I don't think I would have had the courage to start Fixer Sisters if I hadn't seen my sister basically, attaching the wings to the plane on the way down. So.
Where's the screwdriver? My Fixer Sister. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because certain things that don't seem quite as hard, like going back to school, you know what I mean? Getting a degree that I was like, I'm thinking I'm going to go back and get my master's. And it's like, okay, but how old are you? I'm like, I'm going to be 2-3 years older from now anyway. I mean, I might as well.
Exactly.
So, but this other thing, it feels very scary. And it's also good to know that it's scary to people who do it all the time. There's a woman, I think it's Maggie Vanderwall. She's an artist and she does these cool little whimsical paintings of batty cats with bat wings and animals and some is very realistic, but others very whimsical. And she posted on Facebook. I love her work. It just makes you feel good to look at it. And she posted on Facebook, this is the biggest piece. She said, I have to do this painting for a commission, and it's the biggest piece that I've done in a long time. I'm a little intimidated. And I just I commented, we forget sometimes that people who do the thing all the time can still be intimidated by the thing. And thank you for overcoming your fear to gift us with your work. Yeah. And she said, thank you so much for saying that. And it's,
True. It's true. It's funny, how many plays I've done, how many productions, and still at every table reading, that first time they read my script, my heart is just like, every time. I've written over 100 scripts now, every time. And, short ones, long ones, it doesn't matter the length. When we do a royal murder and I send them the script for the first time, I'm like, every time. And sometimes they're reading it just before we record it. I'm like, oh, I hope they like it. Yeah, I hyperventilate a little bit. with every time, every Game Changers event, every client that I start working on a coaching, I'm doing executive coaching, all of it, that it happens. I remember hearing Oprah say there was some guest she was having and she was so nervous about interviewing them. And it's Oprah. And yet she's human. We're all human. And so, there are still things that intimidate us. I remember I was working there because I got to work on the campaign when Tina Turner came on. That was one of her idols. So to have Tina Turner on and then get to go on tour with her, she was so nervous. But I mean, she was in her world. It was the best thing ever. She had a ball. And but it was one of her idols. And of course she'd be nervous. And so, yeah, just because we do it regularly doesn't mean we don't feel it. I mean, some stuff, like you said, it doesn't feel like as much of a risk because we're not risking anything to do it because it doesn't,
It's in our wheelhouse. It's what we think we're good at. It's what we are super confident. And even though we know we're good at this other thing, whatever the stretch is, wherever that stretch is, that's where it becomes a little bit terrifying.
A little bit.
And
a little bit.
yeah, but not looking.
You were going to have a good boss.
Yes, vaguely. But yes, I must have said it because I claim that boy, oh boy. And yeah, and I'm so yeah. I said it. I must have said it because
Said it.
boy, oh boy. And I did it. And I remember showing pictures of before I bought my house. My dream house was up on my wall, and I didn't come see this house before. You know what I mean? Like, the realtor said, I have the house for you. She had never seen the picture on my wall. And then comparing my dream house to this house, they were so similar. So there is definitely something about manifesting, putting it out there so that you can start walking toward it.
Yes.
And somebody said that if you're not moving, it's hard to guide you. If you're just completely static,
Right.
like it's hard to, like, you can't even nudge the universe. Right. God can't even nudge you in a direction. You're just like a bump,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're like a tick.
But once you exactly, and they dig in. Once you start moving in a direction, then you're just so much easier to guide, and you can hear or you can, you bump up against this resistance, and that lets you know, oh, that's not it, and then it makes a huge difference. And honestly, it's a conversation, and I keep thinking it'll become enough of a habit that the fear, that you won't have to have that pep talk with yourself, but on maybe to some degree, but it sounds like every new step is still going to have that fear. And I think if we know that this is going to still feel scary, then we won't think that must mean I'm not supposed to do it.
Right.
Because normally fear is telling you, don't do that. This could hurt. Don't get hurt. But if this is going to be scary and it's going to be hard, do it anyway.
Yeah.
You get used to, maybe that's the part you can get used to, pushing through the fear. And I think that's the skill that you've mastered, is pushing through the fear, acknowledging that, yep, scary, done scary, been done scary.
Been done scary, over and over again, done scary. At one of my lowest points where I stopped believing in me, I was able to pull out one day my, marketing things and, some things that I accomplished throughout my career. And I started reading them and I started crying and I realized, oh my gosh, this is me. I did this. And it reminded me of who I was and what I'd been able to do, even through the fear, and that it reminded me of what I was capable of. And so I always encourage people who are trying to overcome fear. I encourage them, write down some of the things that you've done, that you've accomplished, that you've overcome, because if you remind yourself of those things, then you can say, and I'll get this one too. I can make it over this scary hurdle as well. So it really does help. And keeping journals so you can look back and say, I did that thing. I said I was going to do it, and then I did. That saying, she said she would, so she did. I love that. That to me is, you can put that on my tombstone.
I have it on a bracelet. I have it on a sign over in my bedroom on the top, because
I need that bracelet.
Say it and do it.
Yep. Yep. Anyway, thank you for being here with me tonight, Gina. As always, I always appreciate you coming and your support. It means the world to me. So
Always, little sister. That's how we roll.
we roll. Spring would say.
Brings us in.